How's everyone doing today? How's it vibing? How's it flowing? I'm tired. I feel tired today. I was listening to I was doing a meditation last night before going to bed, and I was listening to these binaural beats. You're tired too, Emily? Yeah. Sometimes I listen to audio when I meditate, and I planned on doing a 20-minute meditation, and I kept thinking I kept drifting in and out of, I wasn't asleep, but I was going in and out of consciousness or other dimensions, who knows, and I was thinking, wow, this 20 minutes feels really long, and then I realized when it was over that I had meditated for an hour. It didn't feel like going to sleep, but I transported somewhere else, so anyhow, I didn't get to bed till almost 2 a.m. and then eyes open, wide awake at 6:30. I don't know what's going on. I've always been a 7 to 9 hour sleeper, and these days, doesn't matter what time I go to sleep, I'm awake between 6 and 7. Anyone else? My friend Flavia, who was on I talked to her last week, and she did the astrology bit on the ascension meditation over the weekend. She was discussing sort of is there a full moon going on? Are we in full moon vibes? She was just talking about sort of the difference between the masculine encoded and feminine encoded energies right now, and how different folks are responding to those aspects of self. I feel like I've been very masculine encoded in the wake of all of this, and by that I mean just it's really awakened my sense of drive and activity, and I have a list of things I want to accomplish every day, and I've just been very, not in a frenetic way, but just very goal-oriented and motivated to achieve right now, which is interesting because I expected this quarantine to kind of take me in the other direction of being a little less busy and quieting down, but things I've been procrastinating for years have suddenly, I felt inspired to do them. And she was sharing that on the other side of the spectrum are the folks that have really gone deep and really gone inward, and this time has been much more about slowing way down and being more receptive. And I don't know, I think this surge of Shiva energy, masculine encoded energy, is changing my sleep rhythms and all kinds of things, but all good. The only thing I have to do today is be here with you, so you get tired, groggy, rocky. So today at the end of the call, or towards the end of the call, I'm going to bring one of my good friends on, Rush Davis. He's going to share what we're going to talk, as we always do. We'll see what we share about. But Rush is one of the most creative people that I know. He's an artist, singer, songwriter, producer. We work together quite a lot. He's helping me co-producing my album that I'm working on right now. And I thought it'd be interesting to reflect and kind of theme the day today around this idea of flow state, and our inner artist, and how it is that we can access and tap into our creativity. One of the things I love most about songwriting is that, when you create a song, I guess it's true of creating many things, but when you create a song, you're literally creating something from nothing. And depending on how you create that song, the song itself is nothing. It's vibration. It's information that you can receive. But in terms of where it came from and how it was created, there's so many different sources that we can tap into to access the content that becomes music or art in general. And so, the process of opening yourself up to be able to receive and download and hear something that Rush is incredible at. It's one of the reasons I love working with him. He just can go into those spaces and find stuff seemingly out of nowhere. But a big part of that process for me involves me being able to turn off the critic in my head and turn off the voices in my head that kind of keep me apart from my creative flow and from my inspiration. So the topic of reflection today that I'd like you guys to write on is quite literally nothing. I just want you to write. This is a process that I was first introduced to through a book called The Artist's Way, which is really a process focused on artist rehabilitation. And one of the main practices in that book is called morning pages, where every day when you wake up, the first thing you do is you just write 3 pages without stopping. And you can just write, I have nothing to say, I'm boring. You could write about your dreams, you could write anything, but you just write. We'll talk a bit more about it afterwards. But what I'd like you to do, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes to just write. And it doesn't matter what you say. Of course, no one's going to read this. This is not about what comes out, although something interesting may come out. It's more about the process of giving yourself the momentum and the rhythm and the freedom to express yourself without hindering or editing or feeling like you need to somehow censor or say anything meaningful. Okay, so it's 9:09 a.m. on my side here. About 9:14-ish, we'll turn the page and do some of our other practices. So without further ado, find something to write with and just write. All right. I did my morning pages today already, so I'm going to spend this time, as I have been the last few days, pulling a card for us today. Morning pops. So the folks have about 5 minutes to write. It's taking some time to write some shit down, and I'm pulling a card as we speak. Got a number of cards that popped out at us today. versus nightingale. Beaver. Butterfly. Otter. And I won't likely have time to read all these to you, so let's narrow it down to 2. All right, so we're going to go with beaver and a butterfly. Give you some butterfly energy. If you are still writing and you're on a roll, you can certainly mute me and go back and read and check this out afterwards. Otherwise, here's what the butterfly has to teach us, to show us, to remind us of. So the butterfly is undergoing great change and transformation. This deck is called the Animal Spirit deck. Undergoing great change and transformation. It says the energy of the butterfly is with us during periods of transition. Since air is the element of the heart, this change usually involves relationships, or if you love your job, perhaps your career. Since transition is accompanied by some amount of discomfort, be extra patient and kind during this time, especially if the butterfly is you. Let solid friends and activities support you like a cocoon. Committing to one daily routine, a meal, a practice, a prayer, a rise and shine morning routine, done at the same place and time, will do wonders for lifting your butterfly spirit. When in balance, the butterfly is cheerful and graceful. When out of balance, the butterfly is fragile and frustrated. To bring into balance, focus on cultivating a daily routine. Okay, and then let's see about our old friend the beaver. Okay, beaver is hardworking, loyal, tireless, and puts family first. Beaver personality is a welcome sight. These good-natured and dependable creatures have infinite love and enthusiasm for family and express it by way of the earth element, providing a home, financial stability. Although a beaver doesn't usually initiate a project, once started, they'll work steadily for weeks, months, or even years to see it through. The beaver card appears when the task at hand requires your long-term, steady effort. It can also signify that it's time for some karma yoga, some selfless action. When in balance, the beaver is happy and finds her work, meaningful. When out of balance, feels useless and worn out. To bring into balance, physical labor and selfless service, which we talked a little bit about yesterday, in fact. Okay, so hopefully you found your writing project to be interesting, to say the least, or cathartic, or profound, or boring, or hopefully you did it and found it to be something, which is often how I find doing anything kind of in a scheduled sort of way that asks me to tap into my creativity or my flow. You know, we all have within us this inner critic, or this voice that tells us that we're either too much of something or not enough of something else. And for some reason, lately I've been getting a lot of questions about this, and the assumption that people usually come at me with is that I don't have that voice, or that I somehow don't get nervous anymore, or I don't edit myself, or I have a lot of confidence, or, you know, I'm appreciative that that's the perspective people hold about me, but the truth is I get nervous all the time. I get nervous every morning before I do these, to be honest. It's very vulnerable to put yourself out there and to let yourself be seen. When I create, when I write, when I teach, when I put myself in those fires, so to speak, of transformation and of collaboration, of exposure, it's always uncomfortable. But on the other side of that discomfort, there's often some nugget of satisfaction or fulfillment or joy or relief. And what I've learned to do over the years is essentially, not always, but more and more consistently, to just say fuck it and say, it's not, I don't do anybody a service by holding myself back. And while there may be many, many voices that are telling me that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not capable enough, or that I don't have anything interesting to say, or that I'm not prepared enough, none of those voices seem to be coming from outside of me. I can't remember the last time anybody said any of those things to me, but they all occur within my own brain. I liken it to just like a little gremlin that lives outside of your door that's just knocking on the door from time to time to be like, don't do that, you shouldn't say that, who do you think you are? And it's not an evil spirit. It's a spirit that's trying to keep you safe and trying to keep you from being embarrassed and being ashamed and being rejected. So there's a certain degree of love there, but ultimately that voice will hold you back from the service that you can provide to the world through the gift of who you are. So this process of writing, of giving yourself the freedom, the space to write and to express yourself, it might seem simple, but it can be quite profound, because every time you put pen to paper, when you think you have nothing to say, or when you think that it's a waste of time, or when those voices tell you otherwise and you do it anyway, you're practicing the process of saying fuck it to your inner critic and doing it anyway. And that, I think, is probably the most important practice that you can adopt if you wish to be of any value to anybody on this planet. So every morning when I push live, I'm saying fuck it to the inner critic that says, who do you think you are? Every time I get on a plane and go somewhere, which hopefully I'll be able to do at some point again in the future, and teach an event, I'm saying fuck it to the inner critic that's telling me that I don't know enough to do that. So not to make this about me, but just to share, like, even those of us that live our lives quite out in the open and quite exposed, deal with this. And to the extent that I'm able to act as if I don't, that's just, well, it's my training, darling. It's years of training. But my inner critic is real ding dong. Okay, let's sit for a few minutes and then we'll get up and we'll move, and then we'll talk to Rush. Full disclosure, I have nothing planned for you today. I'm just gonna say fuck it and let creative flow find the way. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so make yourself comfortable. Just want to say shout out as well. If you were here last week, my friend Justin Michael Williams came on and led a meditation that was really quite profound, and it's from his book Stay Woke. I've finally started diving into this book, and I'm just like blown away. Like, I don't know where he came up with this stuff. I don't know. Well, I know where he came up with it, but because I know his soul and his heart. But it's just an incredible resource. So for those of you that are wanting to learn more about Justin and more techniques to kind of up level and upgrade your life, this book is tremendous. Sam, I'll send you the link to the recording. And oh look, it's Rush Davis, our guest of the day. So full circle. Okay, so bring yourself into a comfortable seated position, emphasis on the word comfortable, and close your eyes. And And sometimes when I close my eyes in meditation, it feels like I'm forcing my eyes to be closed. Just let your eyes soften, and maybe they close, maybe they stay a little bit open. And place one hand over your heart. Feel the beating of your heart. And together, let's take a deep breath in through our nose. And just let it out through your mouth. Again, inhale. Exhale. And one more time, deep breath in. And let it go. Let your awareness fall down into your heart. For a minute or two, let's just entrain some coherency through the rhythms of our heart, the rhythms of our brain, via our breath. So as you inhale, exhale, you can imagine or even feel your breath like a breeze that blows through the organ of your heart. As your brain follows your awareness and rides the wave of your breath, you can further imbue your heart with your mind and bring these two powerful aspects of yourself into resonance. If you've been feeling your breath moving in through your chest, perhaps you can imagine your breath moving in from the crown of your head to your heart, or from the sides, or the back, or even the bottom of yourself. So all directions, breath draws into your heart, and from your heart it moves out in all directions. Let your hand release from your heart. And now with your eyes closed, like that beaver energy, I'd like you to imagine or bring to mind something that holds meaning for you. Perhaps a creative project, perhaps a relationship, family, the health of our planet. So whatever the first thing is that comes to mind, you can always do this process again. We have such an infinite well of creative energy that lives within us, and traditionally this energy is seen to reside at the base of our pelvis, our root. It's the energy contained within the seed that becomes the mighty oak tree. Many of our yoga practices are aimed at awakening this energy. Subtle body theory, it's called Kundalini, viewed as this coiled snake at the base of our pelvis. But we can cultivate this energy at any point through our attention, through our breath, and also through our action. In yoga, we call that meditation, pranayama, and bandha. Bandha is the innervation of our physical and energetic body that assists in the production or the circulation of creative fluid through our body. And this creative fluid ultimately is the intelligence that becomes us, that is us, that pulsates through us, and that we direct. So hold in your heart the image or the intention or the idea of whatever it is that you wish to direct some creative, loving energy towards today. And like a little pump, we're going to practice today the activation of pelvic floor or mula bandha, which if you're new to this practice, there's many different ways to engage, but consider like if you were peeing and you had to stop the flow of urine, you would activate some of the muscles in your pelvic floor, and there's a sort of drawing upwards as well. Sometimes that takes us more towards the front of pelvic floor, so if you can locate where your sacrum is at the base of your spine, go just in front of your sacrum. And as you squeeze those muscles, think of lifting the front of your sacrum and even narrowing and lifting your sitting bones. So all this content at the base of you draws in and goes up. We're going to take about a minute or two of pelvic floor activation, and we'll treat this almost like a winking of the pelvic floor. So there'll be a squeeze and release, squeeze, 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 a pulsation, much like your heartbeat, that pumps this pranic energy upwards from root to heart. You could even bring your hand back to your heart and somewhat coordinate the pulsation of your pelvic floor with the beating of your heart. Now, this energy at the pelvic floor is also the energy that organizes and innervates our reproductive organs and our sexual energy. So in a sense, we're taking that sexual, creative, sensual energy and directing it towards our intention, and fueling our intention with our power. So for about a minute, eyes closed or soft, heart full of your intention, pulse and release your pelvic floor and pump your vibration, your creativity, your life force towards your heart's desire. About 30 more seconds. Release your pelvic floor. Take a deep breath in. And let it go. And from your pelvic floor, traverse your awareness up your spine, through your heart, up your throat, across the back of your throat, soft upper palate of your mouth to the middle of your brain. And then project that energy forward through your eyes. Allow your eyes to open. Okay. Pump it real good. That's the name of that meditation. Thanks for playing. Okay, let's move a little bit. I'm going to stay seated. And I'm in a kneeling position here, but if you want to stand up for this next piece, we'll do some movements in your neck, shoulders, and spine. You can certainly do this standing or even upright in a kneeling position. Okay, let's start with your neck. So I'm going to bring my fingertips to the floor and just sort of ground myself, my shoulders and my spine. If you're standing upright, just activate through your arms. Okay. Take your right ear towards your right shoulder. Oh, good. Right ear towards your right shoulder, and then like a figure 8, you'll turn your gaze up towards the ceiling. Let this be organized by your eyes. Okay, so I'm looking up towards the ceiling with my head leaning back. Then I'll take my chin towards my left shoulder and look down towards my left hand. Then I'll turn and look up towards the ceiling, and then I'll look down towards my right hand. So turn, look up, and then look down. Turn, turn, turn. So the movement sort of starts in my neck, isolating in my neck. Come back to center. And now I'll put the movement in your chest. Okay, so cross your arms in front of you like this. You can adjust your base of support however you need. And similarly in your spine, you're going to lean your spine to the right, and then point your elbows up towards the ceiling, and then point your elbows down towards the floor, so down and to the left. And then you'll turn, elbows up, and then lean to the right. Turn, lean to the left. Turn, turn. Figure 8 through your spine. Can you reverse the direction? Back to the center. I'm going to put those movements together. So now we'll orient from your head, but allow the rest of your body to move. So you can take your right ear to the right, but then let your spine lean to the right. Then as you turn your eyes up towards the ceiling, your chest can turn up a bit, and then look down into the left, and then up into the right, and you'll move your whole self in this sort of figure 8. Your hands can go wherever they want to go. If you find yourself wanting to move in some other ways, you can certainly do that. You can go in both directions. Be that Kundalini snake coiling its way from your pelvis to your crown. Move into your shoulders. Lift yourself up onto your shins. Oh, pump it real good. Perfect. Take your left leg out to the left. Bring your left hand to your outer left knee. So I'm going to move through shoulder circumductions, as it were. I'll start with your right arm. So reach your right fingertips towards the floor. Work to more or less stabilize your spine for these first ones. So your right arm's going to go across your body like this, goes across the front of your face and ends up with your bicep by your ear. Now I'm trying not to let my ribs come forward for now. My spine and ribs somewhat contained. Then I'll spin my palm to face the right and continue reaching back behind me. At the end of the rotation, my palm will face the back of the room, or the wall behind. Then I'll press back, all the way back up, and down and across. Let's do that again. Reach across, come all the way back, palm faces back, and then reach back, and all the way around. Okay, switch sides. Left shin down, right leg out to the side. Bring your right hand to your outer right knee. And then left arm goes across, goes up. Spin your palm and reach back. Turn your palm to face the back of the room. And then reach back, circle around, go across, and back to the starting position. Let's do that one more time. Oh look, Kundalini herself. And Rush gave me this shirt. I didn't even plan that. Come on now. And then reach back and go up. And all the way back around. Okay. Let's switch your legs again. We're going to try this a little different. So this time we're going to bring your head and your eyes and ultimately your spine in on it a little bit. So your left leg that was out to the left, bring it in a little bit. Okay, so my pelvis is facing forward. My left leg is sort of not right in front of me, but out to the side a little bit with my toes turned out. Okay. Left hand goes to my outer left knee. Now I'm going to look down at my right hand this time. And as my right arm goes across my body, I'm going to follow it with my eyes. So my spine will move. I'm getting a little stretch on the front of my right hip. Then I'll turn my palm and continue reaching all the way back behind me. Palm faces back. Then I follow my palm, it goes back, comes up. And as it goes across, it can almost reach towards your left hand. Okay. So try that a few times. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. You might find that a different position in your legs is better for you. Just take this sweeping arc with your arm and let your eyes and your spine follow. I'm finding that as I'm reaching back, my left hand starts to kind of pull on my left knee. And as I come forward, it sort of pushes on my knee. So just thought you might want to know what I'm doing over here. Switch sides. Take a moment and feel the difference between your two sides. So right leg goes forward and to the right a little bit, and turn your right foot out slightly. And bring my right hand onto my knee. My left arm goes across my body. I look at my left fingertips as they reach up. My left side lengthens. Starting to twist my spine to follow my left arm, then I spin my palm back and continue reaching all the way back behind me. Okay, following with my eyes, palm goes back, left arm goes up and around and over to the right. So try that on your own. Just coordinating the movements of your arm with your gaze and with your spine and even with your pelvis. Do a little bit in your hips. So have a seat. I'm going to come in FRC, they call this bear sit. So from the seated position, you take your legs somewhat wide and your hands will grab hold of your ankles. Let me know if you start having trouble hearing me. Okay. So I'm going to grab onto my ankles, my arms press into my legs, and I'll lift my spine up. Okay. So just take a moment here, let the inseam of your legs lengthen a little bit and widen. My feet are more or less flat on the floor. As I pull with my arms, I can lift my chest up. Could take a little cat and cow, kind of pull back with your spine, and pull with your arms. If you wanted to explore some of those rolling movements in your spine, you can do that too. Now stay upright, but take your hands back behind you. So now the push of your hands is what keeps you up. I'm gonna do some hip rotations here. So starting with your left hip, keep your pelvis on the floor. Turn your left leg in. Okay, if you're like me, you'll probably find it doesn't go too far. Okay, so I turn my left leg in, and then I'll turn my left leg out as far as I can. Left leg rolls in and out. In and out. Most of us will have quite a bit more, quite a bit more movement on the way out than on the way in. Let me take you on an escapade, baby. And then we'll go right leg. So you'll roll in and out. Again, I'm keeping my right sitting bone on the ground. Back to neutral. So now we'll combine with your left leg, go in, and with your right leg, go out, and then let your pelvis turn so your knees come to the ground. Okay. We're gonna come into, well, let's go back side to side for a little bit. So roll your sitting bones back to the ground, and then take your legs back up. Then bring your right leg in, open your left leg out, and turn your pelvis to the left. So we'll just go back and forth, roll your sitting bones, turn your legs, roll your sitting bones, turn your legs. You can try it without your arms if you wish, in which case, as you go side to side, your arms will open and close. The next time you go to the right, pause. I'm going to bring my right foot to touch my inner left knee, and grab a hold of your left foot, point your foot, and see if you can bring your left foot in closer so the top of your left foot is on the floor by your left hip. Okay. Take your right hand to the floor beside you, and then push into your right hand and press your left hip towards the floor. Okay, and then you can just rock towards your right hip and towards your left hip. As I rock towards my right hip, can squeeze my left glute a bit and stretch the front of my left thigh. And as I go towards my left hip, you get sort of a stretch in the tissue closer towards your knee. All right, from this position, you can let your left leg come out a little bit, come back to the center and over to the second side. Same thing, left foot goes to your inner right knee. Come onto the top of your right foot, bring your left hand to the floor, and then you'll rock. Left sitting bone, right sitting bone. And your right sitting bone doesn't have to come all the way to the floor, right? Just as far as you're able within your range of motion. So now we're increasing the rotation of your hips by moving your pelvis. All right, last thing we'll do is we'll combine this movement with the movement we practiced in our shoulder. So lean to the left a bit, slide your right leg out, and then see if you can come all the way over to the other side. And as you come down, you might need to use your hand, or perhaps you can get your foot there without using your hand. So my right hand's gonna go behind me. I'm pointing my fingertips towards the wall behind me. My left arm is gonna reach over towards my right knee. Okay. So this arcing movement that we did in our arm is now going to bring with it our pelvis, our spine, our pelvis, and our legs. So look at your left hand, press down into your right hand, press down into your feet. And as you take your left arm up, push into the floor and lift your pelvis up. And as you reach your left arm back, follow the movement of your arm with your eyes. Then spin your palm and reach back behind you. You might even tap the floor with your fingernails. And then go back up and around and over and down. Cool? Try again. So lift your hips, sweep your left arm across. If you get to the top and you're sort of stuck here, don't worry about continuing the circle. It's okay. You can just go the rinse and repeat the first half of that arc, up and down. If you want to continue, encircle the shoulder. If you find a different sort of trajectory, or your body is sort of asking you to do something a little differently, that's fine. Follow your flow. Don't let me be your inner critic. Okay, let's switch sides up and over to the left. So I'm on the top of my right foot, left foot against my right knee, left hand is behind me. My right arm goes over towards my outer left knee. It's a bit of a twist. So I'm sort of rolling to the left. And then as I push down, my right arm goes up and back. You can keep going or come back down. But let the swinging of your arm or the movement of your arm inform where your eyes, spine, pelvis goes. It's a really nice multi-planar movement in the sense that there's rotation, there's a back bend, there's a forward bend, there's a twist. Our hips are going internal, external, so it might feel kind of like imbalanced or asymmetrical, but oftentimes when we combine a lot of our movement possibilities, the result are these sort of elusive, interesting pathways. Back to the center. You can cross your legs. All right. If you need any other movement in your body, feel free to take it. You can move through your ankles, you can move through your knees, you can move through your toes. Right? Don't obviously I don't think it needs to be said, but don't let me be the reason that you don't move parts that need to be moved. Okay? You just do what we do each day, and the rest is up to you. Take a deep breath in. Open your mouth, breathe out. I'm going to invite on for the last, I'll say the last 10 minutes, but we can always extend our combo on the second live. And I'm going to bring my friend Rush on, and we'll chat a little bit about this, that, and the other, and see what's going on. Hey, Papa.
What up?
What up?
How you doing?
I'm good. I've been Janet Jackson. Yeah.
I live.
You're like, that's me.
That reach, it was tough. I was like trying to get past this moment. And it was, yeah.
Well, some moments stop you in your tracks, you know?
Yeah. So how's it going? Hi, everybody.
Hey, world.
Hello, world.
This is Rush. If you are not aware of who Rush is, then you need to go off and type his name in some search bars and see what he's all about, because he's a musical genius. He's a wizard of the world. He's he goes by many names. I've known him by many names, but the current incarnation is Rush Davis. So he's been a good friend to me over the last how many years has it been? 5 years?
Oh, what, 4 now? 5 now?
Forever. 5 years
Like,
in this plane.
like,
True.
am I still the right way? I just turned my situation, so I'm wondering
If you turn your situation, then situation gets turned.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we'll stay upright.
Yeah. Yeah, we all get up in here, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Get on it. So, yeah, I one of the things I love, not just about you, but about working with you, Rush is producing my project that I'm working on right now. Is that every
So
time?
good.
What's that?
It's so good.
Oh, soon enough. Um, one of the things that's so amazing about watching you in action is just it's like you have such quick access to other dimensions of thought and information. Um, I know that like words and music is kind of your entry, or I assume is sort of your entry point into those spaces. But uh,
Absolutely.
it seems to be, I was talking at the beginning of the call, it's like a lot of folks have been asking me about that lately. I don't know if it's just, having this time to kind of dive deep and not quite knowing how to access your inspiration, your creativity in those ways. I'm just curious, and plenty of folks that follow me are yoga teachers or yogis, and they do it through movement. But how do you have words or language around what your process is like, and how to tap into that flow?
Okay. Well, I think Rocky, you could speak to this a lot already because you are in flow. Every time I've checked in on this, it's just like swimming for you, And a lot of it has to do with practice. A lot of it has to do with a bit of trust within yourself. And another part is like you said earlier, like a big part of it is saying fuck it. You have to be able to move past humiliation and move past embarrassment. Those two things usually get in the way for people.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody I've ever worked with, the biggest thing standing in the way of that flow of inspiration is always the self. Always. Sometimes it's you have some outward things impressing on you that keep you from moving, but a lot of times it's just that internal dialogue that gets in the way from letting that inspiration speak the way that it would normally if you just kind of still out and let it speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, for me, a big help has one been just years of working, years of being put in very tense situations and having to show up and push past my own voices in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the biggest things. Um, what about you? What do you think? What do you think as far as like,
It's tricky because it's not like I've ever taken a class and like,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess well, I shouldn't say that. When I was in college, uh, I I was back living in my hometown, and I forget what sort of algorithm was, but I was taking some classes at the community college while I was still in high school to like bridge some gaps or something. And
Right,
I took a class like it was like English one or whatever the fundamental English class was
right.
for your um like your whatever it's been so long since I've been in college, I don't remember shit. But I took English in college, and the woman that taught it, they had like assigned her to teach this course, but she wasn't typically an English teacher. She was a psychology teacher. So
Uh,
nothing that we did like had anything to do with like, or well, what typically would be what you take in the English course. So
right.
she had us doing things like we had to write down our dreams every day. We um we made these like journals that were meant to be collages of our, she was really interested in us unpacking our dream state, and so
Mm-hmm.
we would make collages based off our dreams and then have creative writing assignments based off of that. At the time, it's so much of what I experienced in my youth. It's like, I guess I gotta check the box and get this done with. But looking
Right.
back, I still have those journals. um, that was probably a pretty pivotal experience for me because it taught me how to kind of mine my subconscious
Mm,
for imagery and for information. And I go back and I listen to stuff that I wrote when I was like 18, 19 years old, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I was on, but like or where I was getting this stuff, but a lot of it's quite profound. And I don't remember sitting down and being like, no, I want to talk about this, or I want to say something really insightful. I was just in that space of listening and hearing, and especially in the early days, because I didn't have an audience. So my audience was sort of the audience in my mind that might one day be my audience.
right.
I really gave myself a lot of freedom to not it didn't have to be good, or it didn't have to sound one way or the other. It was just, let me just see what's in there and get it out. That means writing a 10-minute song that has no structure to it. I'll do that. And
Yeah.
so it's really been in the last some number of years that I've started to kind of hone that process down. So I think, if anything, like much like we do with the writing assignment today, like just giving yourself the space and the freedom to express, and then let the editing process come in later,
Hmm.
when it's time to kind of figure out who you're talking to, and what you're trying to communicate. And that's something that you've helped me with a lot.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, the funny thing is, I've learned a great deal from you as well. Anybody that I collaborate with, for me, it's never just a one-way street as far as like who's teaching who. It's just really setting the stage for well, oftentimes it's more than two, like three or four different vibrations to interact with each other and exchange things because we all walk away with something, after we collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, just like you were, learning to mine your subconscious, for for me, it was more of an experiential thing where like I was working in sessions and I've been doing music in studios, collaborating that way since I was 11 years old. So in those times of collaborating, a lot of times, I would notice like this writer would be just super fast and they would go in and just like, and then it's like, boom, whole song done, arrangements done, everything. And I'm just like, how the hell did this person go from just like chilling in the corner and I'm over here trying to like break down every line and make sure every bar is just, the most profound thing. And they're just
I'm
like,
sorry, I gotta pause you real quick because it's about to
yeah,
cut us off. Can we? I'm gonna stop it and
yeah,
hold that thought, and we'll jump on a second live.
sounds good.
All right, follow us over there, y'all.
All right,
Sorry to
bye.
cut you off.
We're back.
And we're back. Welcome back to the second hour of the Rise and Shine. I always want to call this a podcast, the Rise and Shine podcast. It's not a podcast. I don't know what it is.
It's
But
alive.
it's the live. It's the Rise and
It's
Shine live.
alive. It's an
Okay,
IG live.
right.
No, but where was I?
You were talking about being in the studio and people being able to like
Oh,
pull
watching
together
different
with
people
great.
work. Okay, so I remember watching this writer Samantha Nelson. She's absolutely incredible, and she would just be quiet in the corner, and all of us would just be like, pen to the paper, pen to the paper, pen to the paper. And we all look busy as hell. And she's just like chilling. And then all of a sudden she'll just be like, hey, can you turn the microphone on? And then it's just like, boom, whole song. Like, what the hell? And then the funny thing about those types of situations is when you show up that way, you come back. So it's like you want to learn and observe and watch. Okay. And so I would speak with her and more so not try to learn um, the way she did what she did, but more so get to know the human behind that's able to tap into that really high frequency of creation in that way, right?
Mhm.
And for her, a big part of it is, and I think this is where I learned it from, is pushing past the voices. Because what she does is like, of course, she sees all of us like writing crazy, and she must be like thinking, okay, they must have something really dope over there, and I'm just here sitting in the corner. But she's not doing any of that. She's just thinking, okay, I need to relax, and I need to wait till I'm inspired.
Mhm.
And when I'm inspired, move with that feeling of inspiration and just allow it to unfold. And as long as you stay present with it, it'll keep giving you things, and it's invigorating for the entire session because everybody that's there is excited about this thing that's coming out. You know what I mean? It's like watching birth or watching somebody paint. You know, it's just it's a beautiful thing to experience inspiration unraveling in that way, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting. I've folks have asked me over the years a lot what the parallels are between my yoga practice and music, or how my yoga informs my artistry, or where those things combine. And I never really have a clear way of expressing it, because like ultimately it's just me. Like it's not compartmentalized for me. It's just I am I am the common denominator. But I do like what I hear you saying there is like there's there is a discipline, and there's a protocol, and there's a process, and there's technique that helps you access flow. And when I work with folks in yoga, the teacher training space, we spend a lot of time making this analogy of like, we got to work on our scales and we got to work on our theory until we can play jazz. You can't just sit down at the piano and just play jazz. Like there's a lot of rigor and discipline and technique that goes into that you can finally let go. And once you've developed the technique, then part of the skill is in the learning to let go. And part of the letting go is like learning that it's not always going to be pretty when you let go. Right. So, so I think like something that I often will inquire about is like, as it relates to yoga, is yoga, or you could say the same thing for music. Like is music the song? Is music the inspiration and the flow? Or is music like the theory and the technique? Is yoga the practice that you do and the skills that you learn and the sequence that you do and the instruction? Or is yoga what happens after you do that? Is yoga the flow that you access once you do it? And I'm okay with it being both. But that is something that for me, I can be very technically minded, and it takes me probably longer than it needs to let go and just trust that I've spent time with that technique.
I can actually speak to watching you work and evolve in the process, and I would say you are great at letting go now. Like you're getting better and better and better at it every time I've seen you in the studio. It's just like you're learning to trust yourself, and learning to trust the process or the energies that are around, because a lot of times it's not just you. You're feeling other people's energy, against yours, and you're wondering, okay, well, what is that I'm feeling, So I'm noticing the trust is there because you put in a lot of time. You have put in a lot of time. You put in a lot of work, and now it's just a matter of saying, okay, we can't measure anymore by how well it's executed. It's more so how present you are, like how present were you with the performance, and how present were you with the intention that you were trying to portray with the lyrics. Well, I'm still talking about music, but that goes for
everything.
Anything,
that's life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something you've helped me with a lot, and it's interesting, like when I listen to artists now, I think growing up I was always sort of compelled by these like big powerhouse vocalists and people that were very technically like impressive singers. And over the last number of years, that's not, I tend to follow like mood and vibe and heart and texture, and that's not always the singers that are the most impressive vocalists that I really resonate with. It's the ones that are communicating something that I need to hear in the way I need to hear it. And so you've really helped me a lot. There's still that part of me when I show up to sing of like, I want to sound good. I want to sound impressive. I want to like, I want this to reflect the best of what I'm capable of. And in a lot of that desire to be perfect, you miss out on communicating the authenticity of who you are. None of us are perfect. And so, I've been talking with my mom about this a lot too. She's been, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing, like her mantra for the year has been like to embrace imperfection. And and there's a real beauty in that, and a real authenticity and connection that we can find when we embrace that. Last point I'll make there is like, just to connect this to yoga, a lot of teachers, myself included, here I am, like are all of a sudden being sort of forced to share themselves live in a new way with their community. And when you record something and you put it out there, there is this tendency for a lot of people that they want it to be perfect first before they put it out.
Everyone.
Yeah, and so I feel like a lot of teachers I've been talking to have been like, I want to live stream my classes, I want to put myself out there, but like it's not perfect, it's not polished, it's not this, it's not. I say, I don't think anybody wants that right now. If they wanted that, they go get a DVD and pop it in that's been produced. Like,
absolutely,
people are wanting. You know, one of my favorite things about this time has been like being able to pop open live and see my favorite artists and people that normally would be very curated and kind of manicured, just being themselves and sharing, you know, in sort of a raw way. Like that's super cathartic. So
beautiful, absolutely,
absolutely.
You know, but yeah, I want to share one thing too before we get out of here. You know, reaching for perfection oftentimes limits possibility. And the beautiful thing about showing up and just being with the moment, you know, and just stepping into it, being, you know, just having the courage to step over those voices and be present, it allows anything to happen. And there's ranges, you know, it could be terrible and that's fine. Or it could be the most immaculate thing you've ever experienced, and you spend your entire life trying to get back to that moment because you allowed possibility to show up. And I think one of the most important things as a creator in any facet is to allow the chance happening for something profound to step in and move things, you know? So, you know, like your mom said, embrace imperfection, because that's really where the humanity in all of it lies, and that communicates more than anything.
For sure. And yeah, well, I realized I used to operate under this assumption that I kind of had like my one shot, you know, like this is my one shot to get it right and for people to see. And I think maybe it's just a feature of the world we live in now. Like, people forget and things refresh in like 24 hours. So like, I realized the worst case scenario is you totally fuck it up and then you just do it again the next day.
That part.
And like,
and do it again. And do it again.
do it again, and yeah, keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Recovering those voices. Well, thank you for contributing your time and your skill, and for being in my life and helping me.
I love you so much, Rocky.
My imperfections, I love you too. And I'll, you know, we'll keep working on that. Yeah, on the escapade. All right, love you, Rush.
Love you. Bye.
Talk soon. All right, bye everyone. Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Peace.